Hello dear students, welcome to the botany class. In the previous video, we had discussed about the flower structure of microsporangium and process of microsporogenesis. Now, what happens after microsporogenesis? What is the meaning of microsporogenesis? Microsporogenesis, it means it is the process of formation of microspores from microspore mother cell through meiosis. So, microsporogenesis is nothing but the formation of microspores, right? Now, this microspore is also called as pollen grain or male gametophyte. And this male gametophyte, why it is called as male gametophyte? Why the pollen grain is called as male gametophyte? Because it carries two male gametes. Okay. Now, coming to the structure of the pollen grain, each pollen grain nearly it is circular in outline and it measures about 25 to 50 millimeter in diameter, and it has two wall layers, the outer wall layer which is called as exine and the inner wall layer is called as intine. Now this exine layer, the outer wall layer, it is thick due to the presence of sporopollenin. Okay, because of the presence of sporopollenin, the outer wall layer is thick. But at some places, the exine remains thin-walled due to the absence of sporopollenin. That means at some places the sporopollenin are entirely absent, so that the region remains thin-walled. This thin-walled area is called as germ pore. Okay. Now next to the exine, there is a continuous thin-walled structure. The thin-walled structure is called as the intine. And this intine is composed of cellulose and pectin. Now next to the wall layers, there is a cytoplasm. In matured pollen grain, it contains two cells. The bigger cell is called as the vegetative cell. Now this is the vegetative cell which is bigger in size. And the smaller cell is called as the generative cell. Now the vegetative cell, it is slightly bigger and it contains plenty of food materials and also a large irregularly shaped nucleus, whereas the generative cell, it is small, it is spindle shaped and also contains a single nucleus. Now as the pollen grain matures, what happens is, this generative cell, the nucleus of the generative cell divides to form two male gametes. So in this way, a mature pollen grain contains two male gametes along with the vegetative nucleus. Am I clear? So this is about the structure of the pollen grain, and these are all about the male reproductive organ of the flower, that is about the stamen. Coming to the next reproductive organ, that is gynoecium, which is nothing but the pistil or carpel. And this pistil, it is the female reproductive organ of the flower. Based on the number, the pistil may be of two types, monocarpellary pistil and multicarpellary pistil. Now what is the meaning of monocarpellary? If the flower contains single pistil, then it is called as monocarpellary. So monocarpellary means if only one pistil is present, then it is called as monocarpellary. Then multicarpellary means if more than one pistil is present, then it is called as multicarpellary. So based on the number, there are two types of pistils, monocarpellary pistil and multicarpellary pistil. Is that clear? Okay. Now coming to the second category of the pistil, they are syncarpus and apocarpus. Syncarpus means if the pistils are fused, then the condition is called as syncarpus. So in the name syncarpus, syn means fusion. So if the pistils are fused together, then the condition is called as syncarpus. And if the pistils are free, then the condition is called as apocarpus. Is that clear? Okay, this is about the introduction of the female reproductive organ of the flower. Next, we'll move on to the parts of a pistil. Each pistil, it has three parts. They are stigma, style and ovary. Now stigma, it is the tip part of the pistil which receives the pollen grains. So this is the stigma region of the pistil which receives the pollen grain. Whereas style is the long, slender, stalk-like part. This stalk-like part is called as the style, which is present below the stigma region. And the third part is the ovary, which is the basal solan part. So the basal solan part is called as ovary. So in this way, there are three parts in a pistil. They are stigma, style and ovary. Stigma is the tip part which receives the pollen grains. Style is the long slender part which is present next to the stigma region, and ovary is the basal solan part of the pistil. Understood? Okay. Now, inside the ovary there is a ovarian cavity, and that cavity is called as the locule, in which the placenta is located. Arising from the placenta are the ovules, and these ovules are also called as megasporangia. So megasporangia is plural, megasporangium is singular. Now the number of ovules in an ovary may be 1 to many. So the number of ovules in an ovary may be 1 to many. So I will summarize the topic once again. So now this is the enlarged portion of the ovary, and within the ovary there is a cavity. This cavity is called as ovarian cavity or the locule, where the placenta is located. So this portion is the placenta. Okay, now placenta is located within the ovary in the ovarian cavity, and from the placenta many ovoid bodies are developed. These ovoid bodies are called as ovules or megasporangia. Understood? So within the ovary there is a ovarian cavity. This is the ovarian cavity, and in the ovarian cavity placenta is formed, and from the placenta ovules are formed. Understood? Okay. Now coming to the structure of the ovule, ovule is also called as megasporangium, right? So coming to the structure, each ovule, it contains a stalk, and this stalk of the ovule is called as funicle. So funicle is nothing but the stalk of the ovule, and with the help of this stalk it is attached to the placenta. The junction between the funicle and the main body of the ovule. So this entire portion except the funicle is called as the main body of the ovule. The junction between the funicle and the main body of the ovule, that means this region, is called as hilum. So hilum is nothing but the junction present between the main body of the ovule and the funicle. Now each ovule, it has one or two protective layers called integuments, except the tip where a small opening called micropyle is present. Opposite to the micropyle end there is a chalaza, which is also called as the basal part of the ovule, and enclosed within the integuments there is a mass of cells called nucellus. So in this picture you can see the different parts. So funicle is the basal part, and the junction between the funicle and the main body is called as the hilum, and each ovule, it contains the protective layers, and these protective layers are called as integuments. Now these integuments, it covers the main body of the, it do not covers the main body of the ovule completely, but it remains a small area, it leaves a small area uncovered, and this small area, it is in the form of opening, and that opening is called as a micropyle. So micropyle is nothing but the small opening present in the ovule. Just opposite to the micropyle, the basal part is present. The basal part of the ovule is present. That basal part is called as the chalaza. And next to the integuments, a mass of cells is present called the nucellus. And the cells of the nucellus, it contains plenty of reserve food materials. And in the nucellus, there is an embryo sac. This is the embryo sac. And this embryo sac is also called as female gametophyte. And within the female gametophyte, within the embryo sac, there are three groups of cells. They are antipodals at the chalazal end, egg apparatus at the micropylar end, and secondary nucleus at the center. So these are about the structure of megasporangium. Once again I will repeat. Each megasporangium or the ovule, it contains a stalk called the funicle, and the junction between the funicle and the main body is called as hilum. And each ovule, it contains a protective layers called integuments. But this integuments, it do not completely covers the body of the ovule, but it leaves a small area uncovered, and this uncovered area, it is in the form of opening and is called as a micropyle. Opposite to the micropyle, there is a chalaza. So chalaza is nothing but the basal part of the ovule. And next to the integuments, there is a mass of tissues called nucellus. The cells of the nucellus contain plenty of food materials. Next to the nucellus, there is an embryo sac, which is also called as female gametophyte. And within the embryo sac, there are three groups of cells. At the micropylar region, egg apparatus is present. At the chalazal region, antipodals are present. And at the center, secondary nucleus is present. So these are about the structure of megasporangium. Am I clear? So moving on to the types of ovules. Based on the shapes, the ovules have been categorized into 6 types. They are orthotropous ovule, anatropous ovule, hemianatropous ovule, campylotropous ovule, amphitropous ovule, and succinotropous ovule. Let us discuss one by one in detail. The first type of ovule is orthotropous. So in this orthotropous ovule, it is a straight ovule, you can see in the picture. And in this type of ovule, the micropyle means which part? It is the tip opening part. So the micropyle, the chalaza means the basal portion, basal portion, and the funicle means the stalk portion. The micropyle, the chalaza, and the funicle lie in the same direction. So in orthotropous ovule, it is a straight ovule, and in this type, the micropyle, the chalaza, and the funicle lie in the same direction. Is that clear? So this is where the body of these ovules is straight, so that the chalaza, the funicle, and the micropyle are all aligned, means lie in the same direction. And this type of ovule is also called as atropous ovule. Atropous ovule. Moving on to the next type, anatropous ovule. So in this case, the ovules become completely inverted during the development, so that the micropyle lies close to the hilum. So this anatropous ovule, it is also called as inverted ovule. Because of this nature, the chalaza and the micropyle lie in the same direction, whereas the funicle is not. The chalaza and the micropyle lie in the same direction, but the funicle is not. And this type of ovule is also called as inverted ovule. Am I clear? Moving on to the third type, hemianatropous. The body of these ovules become at a right angle in relation to the funicle. So it looks like the ovule is lying on its side. Means in this type, the micropyle and the chalaza lie in the same direction, whereas funicle is placed at right angles to the micropyle and chalaza. Once again, I'll repeat. In hemianatropous type of ovule, the micropyle and the chalaza lie in the same direction, whereas funicle is placed at right angles to the micropyle and the chalaza. So this is called as hemianatropous type of ovule. Moving on to the next type, campylotropous ovule. The body of the ovule is bent and the alignment between the chalaza and micropyle is lost, and the embryo sac itself is only slightly curved. So in hemianatropous, the chalaza and the micropyle lie in the same direction, right? But in campylotropous, the alignment of it is also a bent type of ovule, but the alignment of the chalaza, where is chalaza? Chalaza is here. So alignment of the chalaza and the micropyle is lost here, and the embryo sac itself is slightly curved here. So this is the embryo sac, and embryo sac itself is only slightly curved in this type of ovule. So this is about the campylotropous ovule. Next type is amphitropous. The body of the ovule is very much curved that the embryo sac and the ovule itself take the shape of a horseshoe. Once again, I'll repeat. The body of the ovule is very much curved that the embryo sac and the ovule itself take the shape of a horseshoe. So in this picture you can clearly observe the structure of embryo sac as well as the ovule. Both appears like a shape of horseshoe. So this is about amphitropous ovule. Moving on to the last type of ovule, that is cercinotropous ovule. In this type, the funicle is very long. That means it creates a nearly full circle around the ovule, whose micropyle is ultimately pointing upward. So in this picture you can see the long funicle. So this is the long funicle you can see here, and this funicle, it completely covers the whole body of the ovule. It completely covers the whole body of the ovule, and the micropyle region, it appears at the tip portion, it appears upwards. So this type of ovule is called as cercinotropous. So these are the 6 types of ovules based on their shapes. Moving on to the next topic, placentation. So placenta means it is a soft tissue present within the ovary from which the ovules are formed, and placentation refers to it is the pattern of attachment of ovules within the ovary. So it is the pattern of arrangement of ovules within the ovary. So there are several types of placentation. They are marginal placentation, axial placentation, parietal placentation, basal placentation, free central placentation, and superficial placentation. Coming to the first type, marginal placentation. The ovules develop in rows near the margin on the placenta formed along the ventral suture. So here the ovules, it develops in rows near the margin. So in this picture you can see the ovules. So these are the ovules, and these ovules develop in rows near the wall or near the margin of the ovary, and it occurs in monocarpellary and unilocular ovary. Example for this is a P. So second type of placentation is axial. Here the placentae develop from the central axis, and the ovules develop from the central axis itself. That means here the placentae develop from the central axis, which correspond to the confluent margins of the carpels, and it occurs in bi to multilocular ovary. Examples tomato, etc. So this is the type of axial placentation. Here you can see the central axis. So this is the central axis, and from this central axis placenta develops, and from the placenta the ovules arise, and here the ovary becomes multilocular due to the presence of septa. Septa is nothing but the cross walls present within the cells. So this is the type of axial placentation. Coming to the third type, parietal. This placenta is formed by the swelling up of cohering margin, and on the latter develop the ovules in rows. It occurs in bicarpellary or multicarpellary but unilocular ovary. So in the axial placentation, you can see the central axis. You can observe the central axis here, right? Okay, and from the central axis the placenta develops, right? But here in parietal placentation, the central axis is entirely absent, and the placenta develops from the placenta is attached to the wall of the ovary, and the ovules develop from the wall of the ovary. These are the ovules. These are the ovules, and these ovules are developed from the wall of the ovary, and here the chamber present in the ovary is single. That means it is unilocular ovary. Okay, so this is about the parietal placentation. Coming to the basal placentation, the placenta develops directly on the thalamus and bears a single ovule at the base of the unilocular ovary. So in this picture you can see here. So this is the ovary structure. This is the ovary, and this is the ovarian cavity, means locule, and this is the ovule. So here the ovule, it arises from the base of the ovary. Once again I'll repeat, in basal placentation the ovary develops from the base of the ovary. An example for this type of placentation is mango. So next type is free central. Here the placenta develop in the center of the ovary as a prolongation of the floral axis, and the ovules are attached on this axis. It occurs in multicarpellary but unilocular ovary. It is somewhat similar to that of axial placentation. In axial placentation also it contains the central axis, and from the central axis many ovules are formed. But the difference between the axial and the free central is in free central the septum or the septa are absent, but in axial placentation the septa are present. Okay, this is the difference between the axial and the free central placentation, and this type of placentation is seen in primrose. This is the primrose plant flower, and dianthus. In these flowers free central placentation are formed. The last type of placentation is superficial, which is also called as laminar placentation. Here the ovules develop over the entire inner surface of the carpels, and it occurs in multicarpellary ovary. Example, nymphia. So now this is the ovary portion. Okay, so this is the ovary portion, and in the ovary you can see many septa. Because of the presence of septa, the ovary is divided into many chambers, right? So these are the septa. Because of the presence of septa, the ovary is divided into many chambers. Now the ovules arise from both the sides of the septa. So you can see here the ovules, it develops from both the sides of the septa, and this type of placentation is called as superficial, and it is seen in nymphia. So these are the different types of placentation. Okay, so these are about today's topic. Hope you all understood the class. Thank you.